RCWR Show with Lee Sanders. Get fun, in-depth coverage and analysis from the latest in professional wrestling in AEW, WWE, NWA, Impact Wrestling, or the world of entertainment. From hit TV shows to your favorite sports like the NBA or NFL. All things music, movies, and beyond, while trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in. All while keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive since 2011. And now your host, live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Covering the latest in wrestling, entertainment, and beyond since 2011. You are checking out episode number 1054 of the RCWR show for this Monday night of October the 2nd, 2023. What is up with you guys? I hope y'all have been fantastic since last I was on the air with you guys. Last show that we did was actually last Monday, if I'm not mistaken, because we did not even do a Wednesday show, and I have been sick all of this time. I've tried to do my best in between to keep you guys up to date on what's been happening with me throughout social media. I'm feeling a lot better, but I gotta tell you, it's been a slow recovery. You might not really be able to hear it in my voice right now, but I got a little bit of raspiness that's been going on. It was much worse last week. I was speaking in a very, very low voice. It was a whisper, basically. I had the whole 9 yards, the sweating, loss of appetite. I know over the weekend, I don't know which day it was, but I actually slept for almost 24 hours straight. That's how bad it was for me and everything. And sadly, my germs, I passed them along to the wifey, and she is tore up as we speak. It's so bad for her. She had no choice but to call out for work the next day. I don't know how she was able to do it today, because I just happened to have a little bit of free time today, and I had offered to take her to and from work, and she was like, no, I'm okay. And she had only got maybe about 2 hours of sleep from yesterday. So how she was able to function and all of that today, I have no idea. But she told me straight up, she said, baby, I love you, but next time you're going to have to quarantine your ass when you get sick, because I ain't trying to have any of that. I said, okay, all right, I respect you. I feel you. So, I mean, hey, at least if I'm being banished the next time I'm sick, I mean, the man cave studio that I have here, it's not a bad place to come and retreat to it and all of that. But I am feeling a little bit better. Trust me, I definitely was bummed out that I was not able to do the AEW Wrestle Dream post show with you guys, but I might have not done a Wrestle Dream post show here as a solo act, but I did do a Wrestle Dream pay-per-view post show. That sounds kind of weird. You hearing me say that, right? Let me explain. Shout out to my brother in arms, Anthony Missionary Thomas of Wrestling Soup, and Joe Numbers. Both of those guys, they unfortunately were not able to do their Sunday night AEW Wrestle Dream pay-per-view post-show. Joey refused to do it. Joey was like, I am not going to watch that 8, 10, 12 hours of a pay-per-view and then come on. No. So Joe clocked out, and he clocked out days prior. Mish, unfortunately, he was having some cable technical issues related to his mixer, so he gave me a heads up, and you know, my voice was pretty much back at full strength. So I said, yeah, sure, dude. Yeah, I'll go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. What's going on? So it ended up being me Nasty Leroy, shout out to him, real cool freaking dude, actual wrestler, has been for a good number of years now. Good stuff, man, good man. And Dr. Brian Wright. It was the three of us that were doing the Wrestling Soup Wrestle Dream post show. So for those of you that maybe were not aware of that and you want to get my full-blown thoughts, I'll talk a little something here as far as overall thoughts about Wrestle Dream, but I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but I would definitely encourage you guys to go check that out for on demand and on the downloads when you all get an opportunity. That was loads fun, a lot of great laughs, a lot of great back and forth and everything, and we had a really great turnout. I'm not just saying it. When we came on live, we must have had at one point the maximum was 75 people were just hanging out with us in the Discord, and we saw that maybe dip. I lost track after a while, but last I saw it was in the 50 range. I don't know if it went lower than that, but it was a really great turnout that we had in the Discord because that pay-per-view came on so late and everything. And once again, shout out to Mish, shout out to Joe. Thank you. It was a great honor to fill in and everything. So I tell you, the true story, I actually took some NyQuil literally before I did the post show with those boys, thinking I was taking Dayquil, and I didn't realize until after I already drank it and I'm looking at the bottle, oh no. And so I had to really stay hard and on top of myself, bringing the energy and all of that. So look here, we're doing something much different in regards to our Raw recap for this week only. And I want to apologize to those of you that's expecting the full-blown nitty-gritty insight perspective that you guys have, pretty much come accustomed to and everything. So unfortunately, I did not see Monday Night Raw tonight. And normally what I like to do is I like to wait until about the 9:30, 9:45 mark, and then I'll sit down, I'll watch it with my dogs on my lap, and I'll just fast forward through most of what I consider to be the boring stuff and all of that. But sadly, I did not get a chance to even do any of that because I have been bombarded catching up with classwork from these past couple of days. I had assignments, all of which I had turned in on time, but the main problem was I was sick the days prior, that honestly it wasn't until Sunday going into today that I was feeling a little bit better. And by a little bit better, voice is still raspy and all that. I still have a little bit of cloudiness in the head and everything. I actually went out for the first time today since last I went to work, because I've been off work from both of my jobs for a couple of days now, and so I've pretty much been quarantining myself, rightfully so. But I wanted to get some fresh air. I wanted to go check on my car, make sure everything was good, and I gotta tell you guys, I must have walked for maybe, my God, it wasn't even 2 minutes, and I was already physically exhausted, nauseated. I turned right back around. I was able to go check on the car and everything, but I came right back around and I told the wife, I told her what happened, and she goes, I know those symptoms. That's how I'm feeling right now. So somehow I was able to, between Sunday and today, somehow despite all of that, was able to get through all the classwork that I had to catch up on and everything. And then just when I was ready to watch Raw, I get bombarded with a notification in the blackboard letting me know that there was another assignment that was due, and I'm going, wait a minute, I thought I checked everything. I thought everything was due. So there was one last assignment, and that's what had took up my time. So we're going to do something a little different in regards to our Raw coverage. I'm going to react to just some of what I'm reading as far as the results go, right? Well, just for this week, right? So this is going to be a real quick wham bam, thank you ma'am, that we're going to do here. But in regards to the Wrestle Dream NXT No Mercy, reacting to Edge now being part of AEW, and more wrestling news, little tidbits. Oh, I got your hook up. I'm all in depth on that. I even saw the media scrum late last night or early this morning for Wrestle Dream with Tony Khan and all that. So you picked a great night to straddle on up, tune in and everything. All right, so look. One interesting thing that came about from this week's WWE RAW is the fact that DIY, Tommaso Ciampa, and Johnny Gargano, they've reunited. Apparently, they had closed out the main event scene for Monday Night Raw, from what I understand here. And that main event had consisted of Gunther taking on Tommaso Ciampa. And look, when I hear the names Gunther and Tommaso Ciampa, I'm automatically going, oh, without a shadow of doubt, that's going to be one bona fide solid match. Worst case scenario, if that's not a caliber of a match, that's got to be at least bare minimal. That has to be at least a rating of B plus, hell, B minus, worst case scenario. But we've seen so much work from these guys over the years that, wow, these two are actually going to lock it up, and they're going to be in the main event match for Monday Night Raw on the go home edition to WWE Fastlane. Yeah, that should definitely be a pretty good one. And from what I understand, that match almost went 25 minutes. So this wasn't one of those, yeah, we're just going to do this for like about 10 minutes, or we're going to do this for about 15 minutes. But when you factor in the commercial breaks, yeah, this is really only a 10-minute match that people are really able to see here. No. Even factoring in the commercials, you got enough of a, man, what a great match vibe and everything. I would suspect, because I'm a little bit familiar, I've watched WWE RAW programming enough now to know that anytime there is a match that's 20 minutes or more, I can almost visualize the ad placements, 2, maybe 3 max is pushing it. And a lot of those times when it comes to the main event scene, they'll usually do a picture-in-picture break and all that. So I would imagine most fans were definitely on cloud 9 for this moment and everything. Post-match, Imperium, they came on down to beat the living crap out of Tommaso Ciampa as Gunther made his exit. And as we had mentioned from last week's show, we know how Gunther has been pushing it with Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser. He's pretty much said, look, you guys, you've been coming up short as of late. I've been carrying the load. I've been doing everything I've been needing to do. Okay, I'm representing. I'm holding down the fort. You guys are really messing up my mojo here. So I tell you what, Ludwig, you're responsible for Vinci. Vinci, you're responsible for Kaiser. And if either one of you fail as a result of the other one not making sure that the other person did their job accordingly, both y'all behinds are going to be in trouble. You feel me? That's pretty much what Gunther had laid out 2 weeks ago to these guys. So the fact that he didn't want to stick around for this post-match beatdown, somewhat understandable and everything, because after all, he's already done his job and everything. But cue up Johnny Gargano, who comes out there for the save. Tommaso extremely happy, I should say. They meet in the middle, and the show pretty much goes off the air. I'm hoping that the crowd that was there in attendance, and for those of you that are a little bit curious where Raw was happening from tonight, it was out in San Jose, California at the SAP Center. I would be shocked if the whole DIY reunion was met by that crowd with deaf ears. I would love to believe that out of 100%, that at least 60 to maybe 70% of the crowd was going, oh, hell yeah, that they watched these two guys from down in NXT, seeing their journey and everything, and oh my God, we're getting this cool moment. Now, while it may be cool for the NXT fans especially those that are still watching the NXT product to this very day, I would imagine that there's some veteran WWE fans. They've already been through the rodeo the first go round when it came to DIY and NXT and everything. And I've heard a little bit of chatter from those OG fans off and on during the years. I would talk to them casually, private, online, whatever. And when the topic would come up about, hey, how about DIY on the main roster, it was mixed. I would come across some comments where the interactions, it would be, nah, man, we're just going a step backwards. We really don't need to recycle that, just let them go do their own respective thing. And then there would be those that would say, no, you know what, I welcome it, because what they did in NXT as DIY was some really great stuff, especially when Tommaso and Gargano had their feud, just long rivalry that was going on for months and everything down in NXT. Hey, if the main roster fans could actually experience that, but just on a grander stage, yeah, all that DIY included, hey, that's pretty awesome and everything. Where do I stand in between all that? What's my honest takeaway? Before AEW had materialized, there was a lot of good stuff. I can remember many times where I would chat it up with some of my co-workers that just so happened to be involved in wrestling. They loved wrestling and all that. Wasn't that many, but I come across some folks, and the interactions that I would have with them, and then most interactions that I would see just from my own respected followers, seeing what they're posting about and everything. There wasn't a lot of love for NXT back then. It was pretty much a case of, yeah, you know what, this ain't Raw, this ain't SmackDown, these ain't the main guys, so you know what, yeah, you can miss me with that. I'm good. I'm gonna go watch something else. Peace out. Deuce. Right? So I can understand that mindset to a certain degree, but at the same time, it's, you're really cheating yourself, especially if you have the free time. Even if you can't check it out on the DVR right then and there on the spot, you can always, or rather live, I should say, there's always the DVR option or catching it on demand somewhere, right? But that's how some people have felt. So hearing that, I'm actually pretty ecstatic. I'm hoping that some really good things, and nothing but good things can come as a result of DIY getting back together and everything. Look, we can be totally honest here. Since Johnny Gargano has been on the main roster, ever since the whole draft thing and all that had went down, it's pretty much been crickets for this guy. This man has been struggling, and I know early on they had tried to serve him up to Miz, and there was that whole back and forth, and then you had that interesting turn of events when it came to Dexter Lumis. That all was cool and everything. It was tolerable, but ever since that point, Johnny Gargano has just been on this, I wouldn't say it's been a decline. It's just been this middle of the road flatline since he's been part of the Raw roster. And for Tommaso Ciampa, before his injury, he pretty much was facing literally the same thing. The injury to him, that maybe that was a blessing in disguise, so to say, because now look at where we are now with these two guys and everything. So I would suspect nothing but good things. And then look, here's the other thing that's really cool about this too, is now you've got two more bona fide names that you can add to your respected tag division, the ever-growing, and slowly it's becoming popular again, their males tag division, for what it's worth and everything. So nothing but, I think, good things can happen as a result of this. Of course, that's just my honest takeaway. You guys can feel free to sound off on that one, but definitely a really cool thing to take note of as you're going into Fastlane this weekend and everything. Some other stuff that had went down. Rhea Ripley making her return. We knew it was just going to be a matter of time before we saw Rhea Ripley making her return, and she did it in really great fashion as Raw had opened up with a fight in progress that was going down between Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. And they were scheduled to actually face each other later on in the night. But as far as who found who knows? But these two women, they're just brawling, getting it on and everything. Baszler slapping on that Karafuda clutch, but being driven into a corner to break it up and everything. Raquel Rodriguez runs in there. She's still trying to get her comeuppance. She's still trying to get a little bit of a receipt in on Nia Jax from a couple of weeks ago and everything. Jax ended up dropping her, but then cue up Rhea Ripley. She comes down there, getting in a little attack there on Jax, but Rodriguez jumps her as well, believe it or not. So you would have thought that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but this is just a all-out brawl that was going on. Security detail came on now, breaking it all up. When it was all said and done, Ripley was left in the ring, getting a mommy chant and everything. She talked about how she wasn't done yet, and orders the Judgment Day to get out there for a talk. Yeah, she wanted to talk to her brothers in arms in the Judgment Day. So cue up everybody minus Finn Balor, as there's some business that needs to be taken care of and everything, as the topic is brought up about the fact that there is no leader. There is no leader in the Judgment Day, but they all know that they have their respected responsibilities. Dom, of course, we know he's been holding it down as the NXT North American champion. Damian Priest, right? Senior Money in the Bank and everything. But to Rhea's point, when it's all said and done, the responsibility that fell on Damian Priest, since she's been gone, look what happened to him. Unfortunately, he's out. He's not medically cleared to compete for tonight's Raw. Finn Balor is hurt. Dom, meanwhile, spoiler alert, but he lost at No Mercy. Well, we'll talk about it. But he lost at the No Mercy Premium Live event. So yeah, we got Priest. Meanwhile, he's trying to put a target on everybody that's holding the championship when he comes back, harder and everything. Okay, great. You still got the briefcase, but what about Dom? What's going on with Dominic? What's going on with Dirty Dom and everything? So, what the hell? So, Rhea pulled some tricks. Is it tricks? Or would rather the term be she pulled in a favor. Maybe we should say that. She pulled in a favor or two. Called in a favor or two. There you go. And got Dirty Dom a rematch for the North American Championship, I believe on Tuesday night's NXT. So, cue up our boy main event, Jey Uso. Jey Uso coming out there to interrupt Damian Priest. He's not interested in whatever Jey Uso has to say. Jey says Ripley has some serious balls, more balls than Roman Reigns ever did. But Priest, he ain't really trying to hear that. He's tired of this guy opening his mouth and everything. Dominic says he's got this. So Priest, he's like, okay. Leaves Dominic to pretty much handle it and all that. Cue up JD McDonough, who jumps Jey Uso from behind. You got a double team that's going on. We see Adam Pearce come out to set up a Judgment Day versus Uso and Cody Rhodes. It's a tag match for the tag titles at Fastlane. That's what all had went down there. Alpha Academy taking on Imperium. Imperium picking up the W there. Bronson Reed getting in a win on Cedric Alexander. We also had Xavier Woods taking on Ivar. Xavier Woods picking up the win with a small package. I got another hype video for Seth Rollins taking on Shinsuke Nakamura. You know what? If there was a video little segment involving those two and Michael Cole, I would imagine there was one final countdown that went down between those two guys. I definitely would like to see that. So I'm not going to comment any further on that particular segment, assuming that something had came about from tonight. Chelsea Green taking on Tegan Knox. Looks like that was a squash match. Tegan picking up the win with the shiniest wizard in less than 2 minutes. Miz taking on Drew McIntyre. You know that's pretty much another squash match right there. And then your main event match, because we already talked about Tommaso Ciampa and Gunther, right? We opened up the show pretty much talking about that and everything. So some really interesting developments that had came down from the show. I mean, just based off what I'm hearing here, sounds like it was maybe a relatively, mostly okay, decent show. Really, the main meat and potatoes for sticking around and checking out tonight's Raw is for the main event and then what happened post-match and everything. But assuming that we had another great video package there with Shinsuke Nakamura and Seth Rollins, it sounds like it was a relatively, not a bad show, but a pretty middle of the road type of a go home show, give or take. So sounds good. And based off of the reactions that I'm seeing so far, and I tell you what I'll do, I'm gonna make this just be exclusive to our YouTube community for this week only. But what I'll do here, if you go on the communities tab in about 60 seconds, you're going to see a WWE RAW poll. What did you think of WWE RAW for this week? Sound off. And let's keep it simple, right? Normally I like to give you guys 3 options. I'm going to keep it very, very simple. Thumbs up, and I'll do a thumbs down. And we'll post that right now for you guys. Okay, so if you go on youtube.com/the RCWR show, click on the communities tab, you'll see that poll. And you guys that'll be checking this out live, or you'll be trickling in to represent for on demand, maybe on the downloads, and you're at this portion of the show, go on the YouTube channel, cast your vote, let your voices be heard. And you know what? I may just poke my head after, maybe towards the end of the show and see what you guys have to say. And you know what? I may reveal the results that I'm seeing later on during the show. So sound off. Let me know what you thought about that. And if you guys been enjoying yourselves so far, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you hit that like button. When you do that, you really help put more eyeballs on the content. Really helps put us out there to a more wider audience. So do that, and thanks in advance. All right, so next up, fun weekend that we had, man. We had the NXT No Mercy premium live event on the cock. I did check that out. I watched it from it's interesting because during the initial live broadcast, I saw the opener, and I gotta tell you, it put me to sleep. And I wish I could say that's how bad the match was, but that's just how sick I was, because I was running a pretty high fever. So that's how bad it was. So by the time I woke up, it was pretty much main event time. So I had only, really saw 2 matches. I was a little bit, actually, no, I saw 3 matches. I saw the opener there between Braun Breaker, Baron Corbin. I did see Tiffany Stratton and Becky Lynch. And then I definitely remember seeing Tiffany and Becky. That was the main event match, was it not? Yeah, that was the main event match. So, yeah, it was only 2 matches then. For some reason, I was thinking 3 matches, but no, it was 2 matches that I saw during the initial live broadcast. So, to my point, I actually ended up the next day watching it when I felt a lot better. And I gotta tell you, I enjoyed NXT No Mercy from top to bottom. From the minute that we had got the opening graphics to one of my favorite all-time video games of all time for the Nintendo 64, I have been waiting patiently for WWE to get with some gaming publishing company, be it Nintendo, whoever, and relaunch that bad boy, man. Bring it back, and if you need to do an updated roster, okay, so be it. But that game, so timeless, it holds up all these years later. It holds up all these years later. That it's not even right down to the point. I know there's a thing that's going on right now where what is it? There's a thing going on right now where some folks did some recent modifications, and they're including a bunch of 80s wrestlers in a new joint. They got Hulk Hogan on there, Big Boss Man, Ultimate Warrior. I mean, they did like some old school stuff with that bad boy. And I'm just amazed at what people are able to do with that game all these years later. It's just amazing, right? It's funny, man. I love it. Braun Breaker taking on Baron Corbin. I thought the match itself was it was all right. It was all right. I'm still having a hard time trying to figure out what's going on exactly with Baron Corbin. I mean, nothing personal against Baron Corbin, but I'm looking at Baron Corbin and I'm going, man, I just don't get it, because this guy is still able to have a job. What type of blackmail is he holding over, I don't know, Shawn Michaels or Triple H, Paul Levesque? What dirt does he have on them, if at all? Because all of these years that's gone by, and this man somehow still has a job. As I always try to tell you guys, and I mean this with the truest sincerity, I don't like seeing people get fired. I don't. And you're never going to hear me say, yo, fire this person. You're never going to hear me say that. When it comes to anybody in the wrestling industry, you're never going to hear me say that. Not unless, without a shadow of doubt, and there is sufficient evidence, it's bulletproof, it's ironclad that, XYZ, this person is a piece of and as a result, they need to be let go. Okay, that's one thing. But I'm looking at all the recent releases that came about from WWE as far as talent goes, which we talked about on last Monday's show, which is available for on demand on the YouTube channel. By the way, I haven't gotten around to editing the audio yet, you guys know, but hopefully I can put that out along with what you're listening to right now. I can put that out within the next 24 to 36 hours. But Shelton Benjamin, Dolph Ziggler, hell, Mustafa Ali. You're telling me there was no way we could keep any of these people and have them down there in NXT? We can't do a 3-for-1. We can't just get rid of Baron and replace Baron with those three guys down in NXT. Like, two of those guys could essentially be coaches, and one of them could pretty much just go in there and regularly be doing their thing in the ring, doing their own respective part and helping the up-and-coming talent. We couldn't do anything. I've seen this guy get repackaged so many times. So now he's coming out with the bald head, and he's got, I guess it's a Sons of Anarchy gimmick that he's now pushing, because the man's now coming out riding on a motorcycle, and he did not seem that confident and comfortable riding that motorcycle. I gotta say, remember that first time when you saw American Badass Undertaker come on out? Visually you're going, whoa, this isn't the Undertaker that I'm used to. But then you're going, wow, this kind of kicks ass here, especially if you were a fan back in the day of the hit TV show Renegade with Lorenzo Lamas and everything. You know, you're like, okay, I kind of see what this guy is doing. This is okay. All right, I can get into this. I can, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, right? But damn, seeing Baron Corbin out there riding that motorcycle and all of that, just, and then I got to home in on Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker, I keep saying it. I've said it over and over and over again in regards to Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker, it seems like ever since he had made that appearance or string of appearances, it was brief, but it was a string of appearances on Monday Night Raw where he was smiling. And remember the original gimmick that he had before he got called up on Raw? I mean, he pretty much was acting like Scott Steiner. And you're just going, hey, all right, that's pretty. Yeah, ever since they did a bit of a 180 on that, it just feels as though Braun Breaker has been lost ever since. I mean, he definitely has the look. There's no mistake about that whatsoever. My man's definitely got the look. He's definitely decent in the ring. I just feel that what's kind of sidelining him a little bit right now, what's hurting his cachet, so to speak, right now, is his character. It's still not completely flushed out, so to speak, and there still isn't that connection with the audience and all that. You know, but this, for what it was worth, it was a decent brawl, but it definitely felt like something that had no business being on this premium event. This felt like something you probably would have seen as the main event for the NXT TV show or whatever. You know, but the brawling... there was just so much that was wrong in this. You know, Corbin is Corbin. You know, you get what you're going to get. I didn't exactly like the finish to the match as well. I thought that was kind of crappy for what it was worth. But yeah, I was happy. This went a little too long, quite honestly, for my personal taste. It went a little too long. North American Championship match, Dragon Lee taking on Dominic Mysterio. Oh, correction. Referee Dragon Lee on this one. Dominic Mysterio defending against Trick Williams. And we got ourselves a new NXT North American champion and Trick Williams. It's interesting. I'm not really sure how to feel about this one because I look at the fact that when Dominic had got the NXT North American Championship, I felt that it helped elevate Dominic Mysterio even more. You feel where I'm coming from? I felt that as far as the overall presentation of the Dirty Dom character, as far as showcasing Dominic's abilities in the ring, how far he's come, I felt that the NXT North American Championship really highlighted all of those aspects, okay? Especially as far as, yo, this guy, he is the one you definitely love to hate. I thought all of that was just amplified so perfectly, and I've always been a firm believer in when you have a really good thing going, why mess with it? Seriously, why mess with it? Now, you can easily come right back and you can say to me, hey, look, not for nothing, but the seeds that were planted in this match, you can easily go to Dirty Dom, Dragon Lee going forward. You can easily do something with those guys and everything. And I would agree with that and everything, but don't you think that it would have been even more sweeter, so to speak, if it would have been a case where Dirty Dom somehow would have been able to retain the championship and Dragon Lee is chasing after Dirty Dom for that title, right? I don't know. This just felt very rushed, in my personal opinion. wasn't really a fan of it. And look, I love Trick Williams. Definitely a fan of his work. Carmelo Hayes. I love those guys tremendously and everything. But overall mechanics to this, the execution, I really wasn't a fan of this at all. So, these first two matches, I gotta say, it was, once I was able to actually really sit down and watch it from beginning to end, and those first two matches off to a rocky start, I personally felt. The Fatal 4-Way Tag Team title match, the families, Tony D'Angelo and Lorenzo taking on the Creed brothers, OTMs, Lucian Price and Bronco Nima, what's that, Scripps, Humberto Carrillo, all those guys. I thought this was an okay tag match. The family retaining at the 12-minute mark and everything. You had a nice series of spot fests that was going on in this one, giving everybody an opportunity to showcase their stuff and everything. But putting the whole spot fest fiasco to the side, wasn't a bad match. It was pretty solid, definitely better than the other ones that we've seen up to this point on the card. Creed brothers continuing to stand out in my eyes. The boys are continuing to get better and better. I actually love their work. Good stuff. Heritage Cup match. Noam Dar defending against what was going on with this one too, man? What was going on with this one? This was just one of those but Heritage Cup match, Noam Dar taking on Butch. I've asked a couple of times, and some people thought that I was being a bit funny in regards to this, but the rules for this, some people may say, hey, they dig the format and all of that, but for me, I just can't help but go, okay, in regards to this Heritage Cup thing, who's your target audience for this exactly? And before anybody jumps out there and goes, well, it's your butts, right? It's for this audience, your butts. Just hear me out for a second. Now, of course, the correct answer to that question I'm asking, you're probably going to have a bunch of people that's going to jump out there. Oh, well, the UK people, the Europe people in Europe, it's for, but then you can't help but go, okay, well, we still don't have that NXT Europe relaunch. We're still a little bit a ways from that. I remember a recent interview that Triple H had gave. It was earlier this year, but he was asked a couple of times what's going on with the relaunch of NXT UK or NXT Europe. And obviously with the sale of the company, there was a freezing of hiring and all of that stuff. Pretty much when it was all said and done, a lot of stuff had to be put on hold. So now the company, WWE, has sold, and we're now in this position where, right? So I would suspect that maybe no later than second quarter, third quarter of 2024 is when maybe some type of progress, if any, will be made towards that. We'll just have to wait and see. But I just kind of feel right now that, in regards to this Heritage Cup, there's really no reason for it. Just get rid of it. It's just one title that honestly you can do without, because there's so many in WWE that one has to, you forget sometimes. Like I remember when this match came about, I'm going, wait, Heritage Cup, what the hell is that about? And I had to freaking do the research on that one, get myself caught up to speed on it and everything. Just unneeded, seriously, just unneeded when it's all said and done. I felt this match was greatly overbooked when it was all said and done, especially when it came to the ending. That whole knockdown process and all that should have been better executed. In my mind, it definitely would have been a better match and a result and everything. But Gallus continuing to put in the work when it's all said and done, but decent match when it's all said and done. Decent match. Had every right to be on the card as far as I was concerned. Did it deserve to be on the card when it's all said and done? Yeah. But my whole thing is just simplify things even more when it comes to the rules. Some people may like where the rules are right now for the Heritage Cup. You know, I say you can fine tune it even more. You know, do you really need all those rounds as far as I'm concerned? Do you really need, you probably don't. But that's just me. Next up, NXT title match. Carmelo Hayes taking on Dragunov. And we got ourselves a new NXT champion that was crowned. It was crowned in the Dragon. Loved this match. If there was really one of a couple of main reasons to go out of your way and check out NXT No Mercy, besides the great overall video presentation, you know, graphics and all that they used, and some of the matches that we've been talking about so far, with the exception of the first two matches, honestly, you just really do without. You know, this is where you really come to life right here and everything. Crazy ass match. I love this on so many fronts. Dragunov is somebody that I've been watching off and on for a couple of years now. You know, he may be kind of small in stature, but he has a menacing, demonic look about him. He looks like somebody you honestly you don't want to mess with. He looks like somebody that will freaking snap on you when you least suspect it and everything, right? You definitely want to maybe go in another direction when you see this guy coming and everything. So at least that's just my take. Y'all could disagree with me on that one, but that's just my personal take on that. Both men really bringing the fight, bringing their A game in this one. Dragunov, I'm telling you, man, Dragunov, there are certain guys I like watching in the ring in WWE where I go, you know what, every time I look at this guy, everything that he's putting out there, from his punches to his kicks to his headbutts, it looks like not only is it connecting, but it looks like he's doing some serious damage. And that's one of the key signatures that I love about Dragunov and his matches, is that it always looks so crisp, so good. The fluidity of it, everything is just, I mean, dropping haymakers, all that. I mean, I love this. I freaking love this. This is great stuff. This is great stuff. Some really great work from both of these men, but particularly from Dragunov. I love seeing the post-match sportsmanship between these two men and everything, where Dragunov had offered to shake the hand of Carmelo Hayes, and Hayes just pretty much was like, bump that, and he pulled him in for a hug as the two embraced and all that. I love that. I love that on so many levels. Great sportsmanship right there. Really good stuff. And that match went, I think that match went the longest up to this point. I think it was holding the record for the longest until our main event match, which was for the NXT Women's Championship between the lovely Tiffany Stratton taking on champion Becky Lynch. What do I say about this matchup? It's kind of interesting here. On the one hand, I look at this match. It was good. Don't get me wrong. It was a good match. But I was expecting better. And let me explain to you where I'm coming from here. So, both women, I got to give them mad props. They delivered. You know, they went into this, they made this match, for all intents and purposes, they made it feel like a hardcore match. Because many times I was looking at this, I'm particularly looking at Becky Lynch, and I'm going, hey, it's hardcore Cactus Lynch. You know, that's what I was calling her and everything, okay? And it was fun watching this play out in the Discord over the weekend, chatting it up with everybody, as some of the stuff that was coming out there was, Becky's not really, you know, doing enough here. You know, Tiffany is the one that's doing most of the selling. You know, she's the one that's getting her ass knocked around and all of that good stuff. And my whole thing was, hey, that's fine. That's fine. If Tiffany needs to be the one to bump around, if in the end, if it'll help kind of elevate her a little bit, doing all the bumping around for Bex, okay, cool. But I did see what some of the people were talking about and everything. I know at one point during the match, Stratton had got busted open / cut the hard way. It was over her right eyebrow, and she was gushing out blood. I'm trying to think when they had the time to clean that up and everything, but they were selling the violence. Both of the girls here, they were going in there, they were selling it. I thought the most stupidest hokey dokey thing that they did in this match, which took a couple of points off for me, was when they introduced the barbed wire bat. That barbed wire bat looked fake as a mofo, man. I laughed as soon as I saw that pulled out. It looked like something where you could just tell it was a Hollywood prop. Okay? You could just tell. It looked fake, rubbery, like a mofo. I wasn't a fan of that whatsoever. Could have done without that. It was really, really funny seeing that. As soon as that damn thing came out, I got a good look at it, and I just popped with laughter because I'm just going, are you kidding me? But this was good. I like the way the match was laid out. You didn't make Tiffany Stratton look like a freaking chump. You made her look as though, no. Even though Becky is going the hardcore route and Becky has had her fair share of fights and all that, Tiffany just standing her ground, toe to toe, going there with the champion, but still coming up short in defeat and everything. Because what was that? At the end, Becky had managed to avoid the prettiest moonsault ever, and then afterwards, if I'm not mistaken, popped in the manhandle slam onto those pile of chairs, and that pretty much was how it was over and all that. So this was good. This was strong. And in the process, setting up Becky for her next challenger there. And what's her name? Tegan Knox. They're actually going to be fighting on Tuesday's NXT. And that should be pretty good for what it's worth. You could honestly say that when you're looking at the first half of NXT No Mercy, you could honestly say it's a bit difficult because you're looking at the first two matches, potentially three, but really two matches, the first two matches, and you're going, why are these on the card? What the hell? But definitely by the time you get to Trick Williams and Dominic Mysterio, you're going, okay, all right, now we're going somewhere here. And it just went up from there as far as the quality of the matches and all that. So this was really, really good. As far as a grade letter, I definitely would give it a respected, maybe a B, possibly a B minus. Kind of leaning a little bit more towards a B minus. I don't think I'll go any higher, any lower, but still a really good card for all intents and purposes. I loved it. It's really good, man. See what's going on here. I want to poke my head and I want to see what's going on with the polling results so far. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to take me a sip of my orange juice here. So give me a second here while I load this up. So we got some early votes that's coming in right now. Appreciate those of you that took the time out to vote. If you're just tuning in, I want to know what you had thought about tonight's WWE RAW. So sound off on that. Go vote on youtube.com/the RCWR show. Click on the communities tab and cast your vote. Right now, I'm seeing with the early voting coming in, 100% of you are giving RAW a thumbs up. If you disagree with that, let your voice be heard. If you agree with that and you have not voted yet, go sound off. Either way, let your voice be heard on what you thought about Monday's WWE RAW. All right, so some other stuff that we can get into here on the show. let's get into some Jade Cargill news. So Tony Khan, he commented on Jade Cargill leaving AEW. And this, I got to give credit to the media scrum, because I tell you, I was watching the media scrum, and then at some parts, I just fast forwarded because I was like, okay, you know what, this is just on and on and on and on and on, and just the redundancy, which I got to say, by the way, you normally don't hear me mention the name Vince Russo. But I gotta give Vince Russo some love, and just hear me out before you go, damn it, Lee, and all that. Just hear me out for a second. If you're like me, you like being entertained and all of that good stuff. And sometimes when it comes to media scrums, right, you wanna catch a little bit of inside. You wanna learn why certain things had went down or whatever, right? Be it UFC, MMA, boxing, whatever, right? You get the idea of these media scrums. But I gotta tell you, some of the stuff that I was seeing from the media scrum over the weekend here, or last night I should say, or Sunday night, with the Wrestle Dream. Yeah, I'm just looking at this and I'm going, why are we still doing these? And I just happened to stumble upon a Vince Russo clip where he spent 30 minutes explaining why these media scrums are just bad when it's all said and done. It's just bad. And I couldn't help but nod my head and say, hey, Russo's bringing up a lot of valid points right here that, it's really hard to dispute. It's really, really hard to dispute. And if you haven't checked it out yet, whether you like Vince Russo, particularly shout out to those that don't like Vince Russo, I challenge you to go listen to that. And I promise you, by the time you get done, honestly, because we know he can be a bit redundant. I'm sure he would attest to that. Honestly, you just need to listen to 15, 20 minutes and then you're out. But he makes very valid points for why. And you could take the same concept and you can essentially extend it to any wrestling promotion that is continuing to do these media scrums when it's all said and done. But there's one thing that he did not highlight, which I think we really need to make sure that is highlighted. The main purpose of doing these media scrums is for those clicks. It's for those engagements. That's the main reason why they are doing these scrums. They are also doing these scrums in order to put out certain information, in order to get out a certain perspective, if you will, about their respected event that they were holding, right? So you also kind of have to look at it that way as well. Now, depending on who the promotion is, anybody that has made an effort to check out a lot of the WWE media scrums, you're always hearing Forbes, Sports Illustrated. You'll hear NBC, or you'll hear the big, oh, hey, yeah, we officially got journalism in the house. As opposed to AEW, you unfortunately, then look, it's no shade on some of the men and women, like the talented people behind Fightful. They're great. I know our team at 401 Mania, and they've done their own respected over the years. They've done their own respected participation in media scrums and all that. They've done a great job. There's people that's part of wrestling news media organizations that's doing it right. And then there's unfortunately those that basically are trying to make it be about themselves and the moment that they had with said talent and all that, right? It's all about getting themselves over and not about putting over, right? So yeah, it's kind of sad, but the engagement, the clicks, the press, I mean, that's what it comes down to when it's all said and done. And when you can put yourself in a really good position where if you are loading up those media scrums with X amount of talent that's showing up afterwards, particularly the same ones that was just on the pay-per-view, champions included, oh man, high retention time, high watch time, the ad revenue that's clicking in, especially after you get past 100,000 views. You know, after you get past 100,000 views, you're really bringing in some decent money for all intents and purposes, especially when you're syndicating that on multiple outlets. So I can understand the algorithm and the logistics as a content creator myself. I can understand why Con and crew are continuing to do what they need to do and everything. But I got to tell you, in regards to, you know, and I mentioned this on the show, and on the Wrestling Soup Wrestle Dream post show. And again, I'm not doing a full-blown Wrestle Dream recap. I'm just giving you guys, you know, just blanket little thoughts here and there, stuff that I wanted to go a little bit more in depth on here on the show with you guys and everything. Going forward, whenever it comes to these introductory AEW pay-per-views, for the love of God, Tony Khan and crew, they gotta trim that price down. These introductory pay-per-view events, and look, not for nothing, we've seen Impact Wrestling do it, we've seen WWE do it. There's a lot of wrestling promotions that we've seen do this in the past. And that would be my challenge to anybody that is part of the wrestling media. And you get these opportunities to be part of a media scrum. You know, bring up the question, hey, you know, just curious, you know, have you guys looked into a sort of model where these introductory pay-per-views, you're bringing them in at a introductory price to try to entice more viewers to, because it seems that the frequency of AEW pay-per-views is picking up. And, you know, we had Tony Khan, not for nothing, but during that scrum, we had Tony Khan say, you know, hey, I can't confirm, I can't deny, you know, whether or not we're going to be adding more pay-per-views. You know, I never said that we weren't going to do 12 pay-per-views a year, and, right? So, you know, obviously, Tony Khan, when it's all said and done, he's going to go in the direction of, okay, well, how are we doing revenue-wise? What's being generated here? And does it validate, you know, maybe entertaining the idea of putting another event out there, right? So, you know, it's kind of interesting. I appreciated the answer that he gave and all that. It was, you know, it was definitely some really good stuff that was in there. We're talking about Jade Cargill. I didn't forget. I just got segued a little bit. But during the scrum, he was asked about Jade Cargill leaving AEW, and he noted that he made her two very big offers to stay during their negotiations. He said, and I quote, "I knew Jade's contract had been ticking down." That's ticking down, not taken, ticking down. And we were talking about a new contract, and I was very interested in Jade coming back, and we were having a negotiation. I made a very big offer, and I thought it was a very fair offer. I think she was considering it, and then she asked for a bigger offer, and then I went up again, and I kind of thought that was going to do it. Then it didn't, which I was surprised because, to be honest, I came up to a number that was higher than her original ask. I don't know what I would have had to do at that point. I was just a little surprised. I really did hope that Jade would be back. Yeah, I appreciate the candor here in this. You know, I hear this, and, you know, on the one hand, I hear this, it lets me know how much respect he has for Jade Cargill. Yet at the same time, I won't say hurt is too strong of a word. I would just say stunned. I think that's the better choice of wording to use here. The fact that he's being so open about the whole process and just, how professional he was, and, how he was trying to do his best to keep her. And when all was said and done, he thought for sure that with the counter offer, that was going to lock her in, but it wasn't. Appreciate him being that, because normally when it comes to stuff like this, can we be honest? I don't really want to go into the specifics of that. Appreciate you asking the question, though. We normally get that somewhere buried in 50 plugs for Dynamite or Rampage or whatever. Now, he also talked about on her exit from the company. And he says, I think I tried to handle it when we were down to the nitty gritty and we were down to the final couple of weeks and we still hadn't agreed to something. Then it was at that point where I said, if you aren't going to stay, I'm going to give you the best possible exit. I have only good things to say about Jade. So let's pause right there. So that, hearing that, I know that there were some people that were a little bit rattled by the fact that, wait a minute, Tony Khan. So, and I know I brought this point up myself, which, it's nice to hear his thought process. It is, but still, right? On the one hand, you're going, okay, so she's making her exit, but you're going to give her a really nice send-off by putting her in a match for the TBS title against Chris Statlander, and Jade pretty much does the deed on the way out the door and everything. So obviously the way he is about conducting business, it's different than what some wrestling fans are accustomed to. Fair enough to say, right? So while some people may have the mindset of, hey man, that just let her stay home, blah this, blah that. Hindsight being 2020 and everything. I mean, apply this to the real world, right? You've put in your notice, you're rolling out. Your employer, unless you are doing that poor of a job, right? Or you just pissed off the wrong people in management, typically what's going to happen is you're going to have freaking, management, especially if your work was greatly appreciated. If you already put in your notice, you're going to be allowed to continue to work your dates. And then who knows, maybe that last day, depending on the size of the company and its employees and all that, maybe you're going to get a nice little cake, a nice little send-off, all of that. So obviously when it's all said and done, the one thing that we can all agree with here, there is a level of respect that Tony Khan has here for Jade Cargill. He goes on to say, I really enjoyed working with her. She was a great part of AEW. She is always welcomed here. I tried to give her the best possible send-off I could. The classiest send-off I've ever seen in wrestling was when Ric Flair left the WWF. He did a match with Mr. Perfect, who was a natural person for him to wrestle, and that was it. He was gone. They didn't do anything to embarrass him or mess him up. They let him leave, and he was still Ric Flair. He wrestled the match against the person he should have, finished up, and left with not only his dignity and probably a better position than he came in. That's what I tried to do. I wanted to get her the best possible send-off. He wanted to give her the best possible send-off. As far as our exit goes, the natural thing was there was no rematch against Chris Statlander. So I had to do a run-in knowing it was set up the match where she would likely finish up unless we came to an agreement at the last minute, which I was really still hoping would happen down to the last minute. I only have positive things to say. I thought I had a good plan where if this is it, that's where we'll finish up. When she did the segment where she returned and she did the run-in, Tony Schiavone came to the monitor at my desk and said, "You're a classy guy, boss. I think he meant it. It was a classy way to send her off. I try to make this a great home for wrestlers, and I want people to see whether you're coming in or coming out, we're going to treat you well, and I respect and value Jade. So I wanted to give her a big send-off. I wish her the best, and she would always be welcome back if she wanted to come back. So really nice, classy words right there. Nice way to take the high road and all of that good stuff. And that's good. That's good. I like that. That part of the scrum, it definitely made me nod and I'll be honest, it made me appreciate just a little bit more into Tony Khan's insight. I know he gets ripped left and right from a lot of people, and you know how I try to do it. I give constructive criticism when it's warranted, when it needs to be given, and look, when praise needs to be given, I'm definitely giving that praise as well. Got to see what's going on with the final numbers. But in regards to the early pay-per-view buy estimate for Wrestle Dream, which, by the way, it will be an annual event. That's something that was also covered during the Wrestle Dream media scrum and everything. But yeah, it's going to be a yearly thing. We're not sure just yet. I know one thing that Tony Khan had brought up during the scrum was he's not sure if that's going to be the same venue. It's going to constantly be in Seattle every single year, or if it's going to bounce around to different cities and everything. But he noted that the show was up from All Out in terms of pay-per-view buys, and that respective pay-per-view had did over 100,000 buy rates. So he is saying that Wrestle Dream has done more than what All Out did. So I would imagine they're getting the final tallies before they get ready to boost. But just hearing that's but still, you look at the fact that when this pay-per-view was dropped, you could get even more buy rates for introductory pay-per-view if you cut the price a bit, and then also you gotta trim those matches. You just got to trim those matches. To be putting 14, 15 matches, and we're going 5, 6, and it's happening on a weekend where there's no holiday involved. There's no major holiday at play. Kids are back to school in full effect, right? Pandemic is over. Despite some COVID numbers going up, the pandemic is over. As remote work is done, you now have to physically return to work. Like all of that going into play, and we got to get that. Just because you're on the West Coast, it doesn't mean that you can just keep going on and on and on and on. You may not sleep, but they gotta fine tune that stuff. Just because you gotta do a pay-per-view, it doesn't mean you gotta overload. Sometimes some people just want a sandwich, and then there's some people that want to have the fixings in between the sandwich, and then there's just straight up overkill where you just overload the hell out of the sandwich, and you really don't need to do all that, dog. Seriously, you don't need to do all that to that sandwich. Like seriously, a lot of that is totally unnecessary. Seriously, there's just some interesting food for thought there. But as far as the night after Wrestle Dream, I still feel the way that I do, which again, you really are cheating yourselves. Go out of your way, check out Wrestling Soup, check out the Wrestle Dream post show that I had did, co-hosted also by Nasty Leroy and Dr. Brian Wright. Loads of laughs, great time that we had on there. I mean, we went about an hour, it was an hour 30 minutes strong talking about the pay-per-view. But as far as my rating, I still stand behind the initial rating that I had put out there on that post show, which was I think I gave it I'm pretty sure I gave it a C plus. I said I can't go higher, I can't go any lower. Yeah, I mean a C plus for what it was worth. You know, it was really a glorified house show, with the exception of 2, maybe 3 matches where you're going, oh yeah, I'm definitely in right here. You know, now business has officially picked up. That's what's up. USA Network, they've confirmed that Brian Pillman Jr. is coming to NXT. There was a vignette that had appeared to show Pillman being aired for last week's NXT, and then USA Network has since posted a article saying that he has signed with WWE and that the rumors are true. You know, he is on his way to NXT. So looking forward to seeing what the young man is going to be able to do in NXT. You all that have been longtime listeners, you know this. So forgive me if this sounds a bit redundant for newer listeners, but I have always said this in regards to Brian Pillman Jr. AEW, Tony Khan and them, they dropped the ball with the young man tremendously after that Dark Side of the Ring episode came out on his father. And if there was ever a time to capitalize, build on the momentum of that, I can't tell you how many people went out of their way after that Dark Side of the Ring episode to represent Brian Pillman, including myself, and buying whatever merch they could get from the Pro Wrestling Tees store, DVDs, you name it. And if there was great intrigue, there was excitement, there was hope, there was support for young Brian Pillman Jr. If there was ever okay, we got to ride this. We've got to ride this. We got to do it in a respectful way that is not tacky whatsoever. But this is a golden window of opportunity that we have to take advantage of. You know, this is that breakthrough moment. And the fact that they did not, and look, I'll give an out, maybe, just saying, sounds crazy what I'm about to say, but maybe, just maybe, they approached Brian Pillman Jr., dude, you got all this buzz, we should kind of do something with this, and I don't know, Brian Pillman Jr. might have said, yeah, I don't know, but see, I don't think that was even presented. And I'm going to explain to you the reason why. Because I remember there was a promo. I don't know if it was Christian or MJF, but or somebody shortly after that episode premiered. It was a program that he was doing with some guy, and they were mocking his dad, the whole 9 yards, how he's dead, all this other stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Christian, but it was somebody. It was definitely a heel. And that just, okay. And so you kind of felt as though, okay, so maybe, just maybe, there is some legs to this. But nothing ever materialized as a result. So I'm curious to see. He's going to be in really good hands with the WWE. Moves a little bit stiff in the ring. I think they'll be able to work on that as far as his footing goes, his pacing goes, and all that. They'll definitely be able to work with him on that a little bit more. So I'm very excited for him. Some other stuff that we can get into here on the show. Not really much has happened since last we were on the air with you. Oh, by the way, I got to give a shout out. I got to give out to my boy Jeremy Thomas over at 401 Mania. As you guys know, I do side work over there. And I'm actually working on a Edge piece, which we'll talk about in a hot second. Edge now in AEW and everything. I was supposed to cover Rampage this past Friday. But again, because of how sick I was, it was not meant to be. So shout out to Jeremy for stepping up big time almost at last minute too. I tried to give him as much of a notice as possible. I gave him like at least a 5-6 hour notice what was going on, and it was such a sweetheart. It's like, hey, totally understand, get better. And so thank you, Jeremy, appreciate you. Edge and AEW, of course, the biggest thing to come from Wrestle Dream is that Edge Adam Copeland is now in AEW. And I gotta tell you, within the past 24 plus hours, it's been fascinating to see the different reactions that fans have been having for this man. I've spoken with people and hey, what are you seeing? And I've seen it with my own two eyes. You've got those who are WWE loyalists that are going, man, Edge, after everything that WWE has done for you, you do them like this? What the hell, man? That's just dirty. And you have them wishing, some fans actually jumped out there and said this online publicly, that they hope he breaks his neck in AEW. Not my words. These are legit. Some of the comments from some wrestling fans, and you hear that, you just shake your head and you're going, what the hell? And believe it or not, you have some AEW fans who are going, nah, man, we don't need Edge. We don't need him over here. We got all this great homegrown talent here in AEW. Man, did we not learn anything from all these other guys, particularly CM Punk? No, we're good to go. Leave AEW alone, because their whole thing is, man, this is really starting to become WWE light. They're just continuing to sign former WWE guys left and right. They've been amping it up a lot more. Stop already. Jesus. So you got that chatter. It's been very, very interesting seeing the different reactions to this. Where do I stand in this respected position as far as pro or con Edge being in AEW? Look, I think we can all be in agreement that Edge, 49, going on 50, years of age, he is at that point right now where probably for another 5 years at most, and that's being very, very kind, he's going to be involved in the wrestling business as far as being in the ring, seeing him on television every single week and all that. His career is already set in stone. No matter how some of us may personally feel about Edge Adam Copeland, when it's all said and done, he truly has had a wrestling Hall of Fame career. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. No doubt about that. Future official pro wrestling Hall of Famer? Yeah, without a doubt. If CM Punk can get in, yeah, without a doubt, Edge, the next couple of years, he'll follow suit as well. Make no mistake about that. So, there's a couple of ways that you could look at this. On the one hand, you can look at this and you can say, hey, the guy just wasn't ready to hang up the boots just yet because, he wants to obviously, probably, most likely, go out with his best bud and Christian, FTR, do some stuff with them, to be able to dance one more time with the Hardys. Hell, at this point, maybe you might be able to do something with the Dudleys. Never say never, right? But there's a lot that could potentially happen there in AEW over the course of the next couple of years. We'll have to just wait and see. Not to mention, you just can't help but say to yourself, most likely FTR, Christian, a couple other people, dude, you're able to work less dates, get paid serious buku's money, just come on over here, dude. But if you watch that media scrum, Edge has let it be known that he is coming in full time, just out of the gate, contributing out of the gate, going to be a sponge, going to be helping out where he can, wherever he can. He is, to use his words, he is very excited. There was like at least 14 names that he saw off the AEW roster of people that, oh yeah, I've been watching this person for a minute. I can't wait to get down with them. So that type of freedom to be able to mix it up and everything. Speaking of freedom, was mentioning this to my boys, and there was a couple of times during that scrum where Edge brought up the fact that he feels free, and I was just hoping that somebody there at that scrum would follow up on that, because he created an opportunity to be able to follow up and everything. Hey, you've said the word free a couple of times here. What does that word mean to you in regards to now being able to, be here in AEW and all that? Could you clarify free a little bit more? Because there's a different type of way that you can interpret that. And that's not over analyzing. That's just proper, when you're going through the respected channels, you're learning and majoring in broadcast media and all of that. It's just the whole probing process, right? Just keep going, especially when somebody has created an opportunity for you to go in there. It's no different than you ask somebody how they're doing and they say, not so good. Okay, so there's an opportunity right there, and you can either say, hey, I'm sorry to hear that, or, oh, okay, all right, cool. Disregard that, or you can show empathy and, hey, I'm sorry to hear that. Anything that you care to discuss, something you want to get off your chest, right? Because they've created that window of opportunity for you to go in and probe. Not everything needs to be, but I just thought it was just wow. You were able to go in and probe him a little bit more, pick his brain a little bit more. I don't think it was anything bad, for the record. I don't think he was meaning anything bad. I don't think he was trying to say that WWE was like this Shawshank Redemption place, and I don't think he was ever. I think truly for him, just the freedom to be able to mix it up with a whole new generation of wrestlers. A lot of people that he's never locked up with before, even veterans such as Samoa Joe, who he's never, locked it up with before, getting out of his comfort zone, right? There is the world of complacency, and then there's, now, you know what? Let's shake things up a little bit. Let's try something new while also at the same time paying it forward, right? So I definitely think all of that latter, I think, that's all but it would have been nice to hear somebody go in and, hey, can you clarify a little bit more? You've used that term free a couple of times now. Really wish they would have gone there and all that, but to be able to be in a position where you're working with your best friends, working with a bunch of new faces, working with a pretty cool laid-back boss that will pretty much go to the moon and back for you, right? Not working as many dates. But, they did say that this was a multi-year deal that Edge has signed with AEW. I would suspect that this deal could be somewhat like a Sting deal. This could be maybe a 3 or a 4-year deal. I'd be shocked to hear if it was a 5-year deal. I remember when I was in the Discord for the post show last night, I had asked the Chad, when you hear a multi-year deal, what are you thinking realistically? How long do you guys think that he's going to be in AEW with this current contract? And, it was interesting because some people thought, oh, no, man, this guy's only going to make it maybe about 3 months. And then he's going to because he's going to see all the toxicity, BS crap, and then he's going to roll out. But then you had others that were, a little bit more optimistic is the word I want to use here, and said, nah, you know what? I'll give him 2 years. 2 years was the norm as far as what they thought the deal was. Some people thought 2 years. I really didn't see that many 3-year takers. I really did not see that many 3-year takers. Most people were going, 2 years, right? So I might have overshot it by saying, hey, 3, 4 years tops. We'll definitely see what happens and everything. So, I mean, you can, to a degree, you can understand all the reasoning for, going to AEW and everything. And I mean, not for nothing, but this whole narrative about, this is the thing that really irritates me about hearing this whole crap about from the WWE fans. Oh, Edge, after everything that WWE did for you, right? Here's how I counter that. And it's realistic. It's the truth. What is there to be upset about if you're a WWE fan? He fulfilled all his contractual obligations to the company. As far as if he sat down with them to try to renegotiate a new deal and, hey, I want this, and whatever their counter offer was, that's something that is going to have to be tackled at a later date. Obviously, that couldn't be tackled at the AEW media scrum, right? And you get the reason why. Perfect world, yeah, but they screen all the questions because they want to make sure they're not taken off guard, and it's got to somehow sync up with, right, yada yada yada, right? You get it, right? But hopefully in a interview somewhere down the road, hell, could come as soon as maybe Edge popping up on the Matt Hardy podcast. Maybe we'll learn a lot more by then. Or on Jericho's joint. We'll learn a lot more, right? But, looking at this whole situation, he fulfilled his contractual obligations. For whatever respected reason why he decided he didn't want to with WWE, hey, when it's all said and done, his hands are clean. What more is he supposed to do for WWE? What more is he supposed to do for the sport of professional wrestling? He gave it his all. He broke his neck in the process. Hey, yeah, WWE, they gave him the opportunity to come on back and tell a new story, finish the story, if you will. And you know what? He did do that for WWE. He did come back and he did close that respected story. Make no mistake about it. I'm going on record right now, and you mark this date and time down. When Edge is done with AEW, that's it. Ain't gonna be no Edge in New Japan. What's Edge doing in Impact? What's Edge doing in MLW? This is it. This is definitely it. Okay? Make no mistake about that. So, the next time you do see Edge in a WWE ring, maybe it'll be to give somebody a spear, cut a little promo or whatever, but that's pretty much gonna be it. His wrestling days are definitely going to be behind him. Make no mistake about that. But I always find that argument so comical. Man, after everything that, it's like, when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, these men and women, they're independent contractors. They agreed, right? They accepted X amount of money to go out there and perform X amount of dates and all of this stuff for this respected promotion and all that. I don't, I mean, seriously. And Mitch says it best. He's like, he just wants to be with his brother in arms. Exactly. I referenced Shawshank Redemption earlier. All I wanted to do was just be with my friend. You remember that scene? That's literally Edge right now. You can't fault the man for that. You just can't. Am I a little nervous with some of the people that he could potentially be working with in AEW? And I'm glad you brought up Gangrel, Mish, because the first thing that went into my mind, no bull, and I wish I would have said this on the post show, but the first thing that went into my mind when I saw Edge, three things. I'm talking about that initial, when the music hit, you think you know me, and then we saw him. First thing I thought was, damn, what I said a couple of weeks ago, never say never, because the question kept being brought up. What do you think about Edge and AEW? I said, never say never. Remember that? I said, never say never. I said, look, we heard the stuff, we heard the rumors with Sting. Hey, never say never. Anything can and will happen, right? But the very first thing I thought of was anything can and will happen. The second thing I thought of was, ooh, Brood. You can now do something with the Brood. Exactly, Mitch. You can reunite the Brood. WWE tried it and they failed miserably, and rightfully so, because the way that they done Tony Khan at times, right? I gotta be honest with you. If I was scratching on WWE's door, or WWE was scratching on my door, and I'm bending over backwards to help them out, oh, you want to access Chris Jericho for your WWE network? Yeah, even though it's not a wrestling show in a wrestling ring, yeah, sure, I'll still loan him, right? But then when it's my turn and I want to try to get a favor and you give me red tape, there's only but so many times before a mofo's going to go, I see how you doing this. You doing it dirty. I ain't gonna mess with you no more. So there's a whole lot of really cool, fun, new memories that we're going to be able to see in AEW. If Tony Khan and crew can really sit down and figure out, really figure out their tag division. They've got great pieces in place, but I'm tired of seeing what's been happening with the Hardys. And before anybody says it, yes, I know Hardys will only go as far as long as Jeff doesn't continue to have the problems that he's having. Granted, but something needs to, right? And maybe, just maybe, with Edge in there, that's the perfect scenario, isn't it? You've got Edge and Christian now. You've got the Hardys. You've got FTR. I know what I say about the Bucks, but I'm going to put the Bucks in there, right? We get, what type of Bucks will you get? Will you get the Bucks that actually want to tell a story? Or are you going to get the Bucks that's going to do their greatest hits? But you got to put the Bucks in that argument. I will give the devil its due. You got to put the Bucks in there, okay? And if you can do it right, you can put Team 3D in there. I honestly believe that for the right amount of money, I already know Devon for sure. Do a quick little spot there, here and there in AEW. Devon for sure. Bully Ray. Well, actually, you know what? Let me go back to Devon for a second. Is Devon still a WWE producer of some type? Because I thought, I lost track. I know maybe like 2 years ago he was doing something for WWE. If he's no longer with WWE, then it's just a matter of where and when, right? But it's locked that Team 3D and AEW, that would definitely happen and all that. So I can't rag on the move with Edge. It is the people that actually work for a living will get this analogy perfectly. And this is no shade being thrown at anybody. But it would be no different than you've worked at the same employer for 10 years or more. And you just go, man, you know what? I'm ready for a change. Nothing that this employer has done wrong. Every time I've asked for a raise, they've hooked me up. When I've needed to take care of my kids, my dog, they've hooked me up. I've gotten my PTO and great 401k, IRA. Man, I'm loving these guys. They're great, but I'm just ready for a change. I want to challenge myself in a different way. Hell, I want to work less hours but still get the same amount of money, if not more, or I want to get paid more money, whatever the case may be. Hey, I'm just gonna roll out. You don't see the employer having a pitchfork and all this other crap. It's just, hey, hey, it is what it is. No problem. Hey, look, the door is always open. Anything we can do for you. If you need a letter of recommendation, just we're a phone call away. Let us know. So, but to see the level of toxicity that's been happening in the past 24 hours, no matter how much older I get, and I'm going to be turning 43 in a couple of months. I'm baffled. It always baffles me seeing this. It's like, it's no different than when you see what happens in football. I still remember when Tom Brady left the Patriots and he freaking went down to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I still remember seeing some of the videos that were floating around on social media. Mofos were burning Tom Brady's New England Patriots jersey. And I laughed. I'm going, my man, if you feel like that, you could have easily just sold that SOB on eBay. Because now when people hear that news, whoa, that Patriots jersey has now become a collectibles item, so you could be getting 2, 3, maybe 4 times the money now. But no, you're gonna be a and you're gonna set it on fire. Yeah, that's a way to show Tom Brady and crew. I wish I might. Yeah, no, you can miss me with all that, but just fascinating, what's been happening with that. It's going to continue to fascinate me, just seeing the different responses. But for my man to break his neck, that's just wrong. Seriously, that is just wrong. That's just wrong. See, some other stuff we can get into. Not really much else. Can I give a shout out to WOW Women of Wrestling? They have a new WOW Women's Champion. It is Princess Aussie, aka Simone Williams. Shout out to her. I've been a fan of her work for a couple of years now. Beautiful, gorgeous woman. I mean, she's got a great look about her. I remember one of the first times I laid eyes on her, it was actually through WOW Women of Wrestling. And I remember way back then, in my initial WOW coverage, I said, yo, she's got a great look, she's solid in the ring, definitely a future WOW Women's Champion, definitely somebody you guys need to be watching and everything. And they had finally made her the champion, so congrats to hear that. So she took the title, if I'm not mistaken, she took the title off of our girl Penelope Pink, aka Marina Tucker. So I definitely need to catch up and see, how all that's been playing out. I have it on the DVR. I have so many episodes I got to catch up on that it's not even funny. One of these days I'm going to be binging so I can catch up. If I can binge on Power, yeah, I could definitely binge on some women's wrestling. So, and WOW's pretty good. A lot of people are sleeping on WOW. There's so much you can learn if you're a promoter from that promotion, as far, hell, production standpoint, creative standpoint. I mean, you freaking name it. There's a lot that you can take away from those guys. A lot of people have been sleeping on them. So other than that, I think that's about it. I mean, we went a little bit all over the place for what it's worth. I know NXT is going to be doing their thing Tuesday night. That should be good. Remember, Becky Lynch, Tegan Nox, NXT Women's title. I know Fastlane is this weekend. We will be back officially on Wednesday, though, because I want to do a full card rundown of that. We will definitely do a Wednesday show. Talk some Dynamite as well. I think we'll also get into there's another debate that's running around right now, and I think it's one that should definitely be addressed. There's this whole debate about Edge. Is he an upgrade or a downgrade from CM Punk? I could have easily talked about that here on the show, but I wanted to make this be a condensed version. Do about an hour 45 or less, and bada boom, bada bing. Do it like that. But we'll go into that on the Wednesday show for you guys. But I will say this. I'll mention it on Wednesday, but I will say this in regards to the whole Edge CM Punk thing. No matter how we may feel about Edge being in AEW, I think the one thing that we can all be in agreement of and actually say kudos to Tony Khan is this. You had to get as far away as possible from that stench, just the bad circumstances surrounding the CM Punk exit. And, you know, two things can be said that's true. Any press is good press, right? Because the engagements, people are talking about you, right? And it's your job to use it to your advantage. Even if it's bad that people are talking about you, you got to somehow figure out a way to use that to your advantage. Okay? So, for Tony Khan to be able to have this great string of success that's been continuing, All In, All Out, Wrestle Dream, Arthur Ashe Stadium. Yeah, you know, there's been some finagling going on with how many seats are being made available at the venues, a little bit of restructuring, and you know, but when it's all said and done, you look at the numbers, everything is just, it's good. It's good. So to be able to finish out this calendar year, if you would have told me that 2023 would pretty much be CM Punk leaves AEW, but Edge comes to AEW, I would say to you, who is doing that freaking E-Online booking? Because that sounds like something that's going on in a video game. But the fact that it's actually played out the way that it has, it's just, it's wow, right? So, you got to give Tony Khan and crew a lot of credit for riding these waves, difficult waves, navigating through them, and being in the position where they're at right now. And I'm not kissing their ass. I can be optimistic, and I can, okay, you know what? No matter how I may personally feel, you were able to acquire, hey, good for you. Good for you. Right? When it's all said and done, the fact that we've got all these wrestling promotions that's out there, it's a good thing for not just the industry. It's not only a good thing for the wrestling fans. It's not only a good thing for the dirt sheets, the websites, but it's also a good thing for the podcast, right? Because it is just a whole cycle that just, right? Okay, these people are leaving. Oh, okay, well, there's options. It's not like how it was over 20-something years ago, you know, where, hey, man, there's like literally only two things that's at play right now, and if you ain't interested in that, well, unless you're going to learn how to speak Japanese, you know, yeah, you may want to go back to doing a regular 9-to-5 gig, right? So, you know, it's amazing that in 2023 that I still would like to know, in one of these days, if I ever am able to interview him, I'm going to follow up. Mish, you remember this very well. That interview with Jeff Jarrett. You know, I'm very curious if this, and I would like to imagine I'd get an honest answer from him. I feel this go round that with everything that's happened in his life, new lease on life and everything, right? Made a change for the better, has Jarrett. I would like to believe I'd get a straight answer from him. But I have a feeling that if I were to interview him in the near future and say, is this the wrestling boom that you envision? I bet you he would say, hell no, Lee. Hell no, this is what I envision. It's even better. I bet you he would say that. I bet you he would. I'm very curious. Stick a fork in it. DONE done. Next edition, Wednesday, October 4th, 2024. I was about to say 2024. That'd be something, right? We're going to be on a year-long hiatus. Bye. No, but we'll be live with you guys October 4th, 2023. A few minutes after AEW Dynamite goes off the air. Be kind, rewind, check out previous episodes you might have missed on demand and on the downloads wherever you get your podcasts. iTunes, iHeart, TuneIn, we're all over the place. Just use the keywords, the RCWR show. I will be uploading last week's show and this episode within the next 24 to 36 hours. So just bear with me. Appreciate the patience. Y'all know what's been going on, but still, I love you guys. Appreciate the patience. Once again, shout out to my amigos, Anthony Missionary Thomas and Joe Numbers of Wrestling Soup. Once again, go check out that Wrestle Dream post show on demand, on the downloads. You get the unedited, uninterrupted version on their Patreon page, patreon.com/Wrestling Soup. Check all that out. Great stuff. Shout out once again to Nasty Leroy and to Dr. Brian Wright. That was loads fun. Loads fun. It was nice doing it. I don't do that enough. I gotta tell you, I love interacting with others. I remember the question was brought up, could I see myself doing like something permanently with a new co-host? It depends on who the co-host is. Like, I've done so many shows with Mish, for example. I'd feel comfortable with him. And we both know how, like, you know, we're both kind of fanatics when it comes to the tech stuff behind the scenes. I'm still learning and process, but I am learning, right? And so I think we would, and we have. I mean, there's enough that shows we complement each other well. Me and Joey click pretty good as well. I could see myself, you know, of course I got to give a shout out to Tams, because Tams, anytime I've done an episode of Wrestling with the Topics or a rare RCWR show, she's good. I mean, she's freaking good. And I've helped her along the way tremendously from where it first started to where it is now. I think it would just depend. On the circumstances, quite honestly. That's a question I keep seeing once in a blue moon, about, hey, you're looking for a permanent co-host. And it's the main reason why is because I know how I am. I'm almost a perfectionist to a certain degree, and that may annoy the hell out of people. So I would rather somebody has my same kind of, okay, I get where you're coming from. You don't even need to tell me, like we already know. Like, we're good, man. We're here. We got it, right? It's kind of like one of those type of things. But I do love getting out of my comfort zone of this realm and going into a whole new realm. I do love doing that. So I don't do it enough. That's the thing. I'm trying to get out there and do it a lot more. Go outside of my... It's okay. That's my whole point of saying all of this. Sometimes, learn from what happened with Edge and everything that he has said in that media scrum. It's okay to get out of your comfort zone. Take on some fun new challenges, right? How are you going to be able to continue to grow as an individual if you don't take those risks? Something to think about. Get at me on X, formerly known as Twitter, the YouTube, the Facebook. Use the keywords, the RCWR show. And until next go round, wishing all of you all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. Hey, I almost forgot something. I didn't say it last week. Do yourselves a favor. Check out Andrew Carluck of Falls Count Radio. Great interview with LaFisto. Sincerely, I checked it out. I loved it. Great shit. Check it out. You'll thank me later. Peace, y'all. Take care.